Let's say good morning, everyone. Today is Sunday. It's the last week for our class. Yeah. After we finish our class in this morning, we will have final exam in the afternoon from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. Yep. For the final exam, everyone please review from part 3 and part 4. Part 3 talk about the wins and social control, and part 4 talk about sex and gender. So now, yesterday, Saturday morning and afternoon, on Saturday morning we finished section 1 of part 4, and Saturday afternoon we finished section 2 and 3 of part 4. So now, and today we continue from section 4 until section 5. Section 4. Section 4 talk about ageism. Ageism. Ageism is a set of beliefs, attitudes, norms, and values used to justify age-based prejudice and discrimination. And in here, talk about section preview of section 4. The relatively low social standing of older people is based on ageism. The ageism, as I told you at the moment, is a set of beliefs, attitudes, norms, and values used to justify age-based prejudice and discrimination. Each of the theoretical perspectives, theoretical perspective has a unique slant on ageism. A theoretical perspective is a view of conceptual. Has a unique slant. Slant means points of view on ageism. Unique is only one. Only one point of view on ageism. And continue one more point about section preview. Stereotypes are often used to justify prejudice and discrimination, which can harm the self-concepts of older people. The word stereotypes, it means is a person or thing that conform. The stereotypes is a person or thing that conform to a widely held, or you can say stereotype is a categorized or typecast. The word harm in here means material damage, or you can say which can damage the cell concept. The word cell concept in here means an idea of the cell constructed from, cell concept in here means an idea of the cell constructed, from the belief one hold about oneself. Harm means damage. The cell concept means an idea of the cell constructed from the beliefs one holds about oneself of other people. Continue one more point. What is ageism? Ageism, as I told you at the previous slide, ageism is a set of beliefs, attitudes, norms, and values used to justify age-based prejudice and discrimination. And now here, age stratification. Age stratification is one more way that society can be divided. It's one more way that society can be divided. Or you can say age stratification is the unequal distribution of scarce resources based on age. Many elderly and young people face discrimination based on ageism. One more point, talk about functionalism and ageism. Functionalism is a theory about the nature of mental states. Functionalism is a theory about the nature of mental state. It's a theory about the nature of mental state. Elderly are treated according to the role they play. Elderly are treated according to the role they play. What are the role of they play? What are the role sorry, according to the role they play is to talk about the elderly athlete. If they play important roles, yeah, if the elderly play important roles, they are more highly regarded. Yeah. In here, if elderly people play important roles, they are more highly regarded. Regarded means consider or think. Yeah. If they are less useful to society, their status level drops. Yeah. If they are less useful, mean unuseful to the society, their status, I mean their position, their status level, their position drop. I mean drop down. Yeah. Increase suicide rates at age 65 for men. Yeah. Increase suicide mean how to uh, move or how to up the rate of the people die, yeah, at 65 for men. One more point, sorry, in here the suicide means a person who has killed themselves intentionally or the act of killing yourself intentionally. One more point about conflict and ageism. The elderly are competing with other age groups. The elderly are competing with other age groups for economic resources, power, and prestige. Yeah, elderly are competing with other groups for economic resources. The resource of economy and power talk about what they have, yeah, position or what are the what are the occupational for their life, and prestige. Prestige widespread respect and admiration for someone. Elderly are more necessary in a pre-industrial society. Pre-industrial society that we study and we learn in the part two of society. And what ageism and stereotypes are weapons used by the dominant group to force the elderly from the labor market. Dominant in here means having power and influence over others. Yeah. Dominant group means having power and influence over others, or you can say dominant means controlling. Yeah. Labor market, yeah. Labor market here, the availability of employment. The labor market, it means the availability of employment and labor. One more point of section 4 talk about the symbolic interactionism and ageism. Symbolic interactionism and ageism. Children learn negative stereotypes of elderly through the socialization process. The children learn negative stereotypes of elderly through the socialization process. And stereotypes of senility, forgetfulness, and stubbornness cannot be applied to all members of the group. It is just like any other stereotype. A stereotype of senility means that it is the deterioration. Yeah. Senility, it means is the deterioration. Deterioration of cognitive functioning associated with old age. Forgetfulness, it means lapse of memory. Stubbornness, it means dark determination not to change one attitude or position on something. One more point. We move to section 5. Yeah. At the moment we finished section 4, and this morning we studied two sections, section 4 and section 5. So now can use to section 5 about inequality in America's elderly population. Section preview. The poverty rate for America elderly population stand at 9.7%. Yet the poverty rate the poverty rate of elderly population in American, it stand at 9.7%. Member of racial and ethnic minority are in the poorest rank. Members of racial, racial and ethnic minority, racial and ethnic minority are in the poorest rank. It means racial in here, it means the relating to the race, and ethnic minority is a group within a community which has different national or cultural traditions from the main population. One more point: the political process offer the major source of power for elderly Americans. Older people exert political influence through their high voting rate and their support of special interest groups. The word exert, it means make a physical or mental effort. Exert, it means make a physical or mental effort. The political process offer the major source of power for elderly American. Older people exert political influence through their high voting rate. All this meaning we will talk in the next slide, and their support of special interest group. Let's now talk about the elderly minority. Why are they minority? In here, negative view of elderly came from early study, most of which were done in institution. Negative view of elderly came from early study, most of which were done in institutions. The question is, why are they a minority? Because they are singled out from the other in a society in which they live for differential and unequal treatment. One more point: elderly economic. At the moment we talk about the elderly minority. Now we talk about elderly economics. Elderly spend more money. The elderly spend more money on health care and housing. Health care means the organized provision of medical care to individuals or a community. And housing means talk about the house or flat considered collectively. About 20% of elderly are poor. About 20% of elderly are poor. It means in among 100%, there are 20% of elderly are poor. One more point. Let's continue from elderly economic. While some elderly live well of asset and retirement saving, most do not. The word asset here means a useful or valuable thing or person. And the word retirement, it means the action or fact of leaving one job and ceasing to work. Discrimination and poor economic situation for African American and Latino elderly are magnified old age. Magnified old age means make something appear like good than the old age. Continue one more point of elderly economic. We mean of these same groups, one of the poorest segment of society. The word segment in here means each of the parts into which something is or may be divided of society. Discrimination in the workforce earlier has put elderly women at a high economic disadvantage. The last point of section 5, grey power. Grey power is the political, financial, or social influence of elderly people. Elderly have power in the political system and voter turnout. Voter turnout for elderly is nearly double that of those of their age. Voter turnout is the percentage of eligible, eligible voters who cast a ballot in an action, in an election. The vote turnout is it means is the attendance or audience. And let's continue the point of great power. If elder could put differences aside, they could become a very strong political voice. Yeah, if elder could not put difference aside, they could become a very strong political voice. Membership in interest group gains more power for elderly. Membership in interest group gains more power for the elderly. Yeah, that's now I finished my presentation of section 4 and section 5. Here is a key term of part 4, sex and gender. Yeah, the first key term is sex biological determinism. Yeah, sex biological determinism, gender identity, gender socialization, sexism, occupational segregation, age stratification, ageism, interest group. Yeah, interest group in a section 5 at the moment is a group organized to influence political decision making. And thanks to everyone for your paying attention. If you have any question, please ask me in Google Classroom. Yeah. For final exam in this afternoon, we will uh, it has in the part 3 and part 4. Part 3 so deviant and social control, and part 4 talk about gender, sex and gender. Yeah, let's say goodbye everyone.